They called him a fool, but he predicted Trump's America 200 years ago. In 1831, a French aristocrat toured America and wrote a book that politicians called ridiculous. But today, his warnings about tyranny, social media, and even Donald Trump are shockingly accurate. Why did everyone ignore him until now? What if I told you that someone predicted our exact political mess almost 200 years ago? The social media outrage, the political tribalism, even how we'd all be glued to our screens while democracy crumbles. And what if this same person was laughed at, called a fool, and told he didn't understand America at all? In 1831, a young French aristocrat named Alexis de Tocqueville arrived in America. Just 26 years old, he was officially here to study the prison system. But his real mission? Understanding this strange new experiment called the democracy that was terrifying European elites. For 9 months, Tocqueville traveled across America, taking obsessive notes on everything he saw. When he returned to France and published his observations, many dismissed him as naive. Some called him a misguided moderate, too soft on democracy. Others branded him an aristocratic snob who couldn't possibly understand the future. But here's where it gets eerie. Tocqueville didn't just observe democracy, he predicted exactly how it could unravel. While everyone was celebrating equality as an unmitigated good, Tocqueville was the first to warn, wait, this equality thing has a dark side. He wrote that democratic equality would make people identify with each other like never before, explaining the mass movements and viral outrage we see today. But simultaneously, he predicted this same equality would make us retreat into ourselves, becoming isolated and self-absorbed. He wrote that democratic equality would make people identify with each other like never before, explaining the mass movements and viral outrage we see today. But simultaneously, he predicted this same equality would make us retreat into ourselves, becoming isolated and self-absorbed. His most chilling prediction? That democratic citizens would gradually abandon the hard work of self-government, becoming what he called a flock of timid animals, seeking only comfort and small pleasures, while a protective power watches over them. While other political thinkers were worried about violent revolutions or old-fashioned tyrants, Tocqueville envisioned something far more subtle, a society where freedom dies not with a bang, but with a Netflix binge. The American Republic will endure until politicians discover they can bribe the people with their own money, Tocqueville supposedly said. Though historians debate whether this quote is authentic, the sentiment perfectly captures his fear that citizens would trade their freedom for comfort. In a time when monarchies still ruled most of Europe, Tocqueville saw that the real danger to future democracies wouldn't be kings or dictators, it would be us, our own withdrawal from public life, our growing inability to determine truth from fiction, our surrender to the comforts of consumer life. When Tocqueville published these warnings, critics from both sides attacked him. Conservatives thought he was too soft on the democratic rabble. Progressives accused him of not having enough faith in the common person. But Tocqueville wasn't against democracy. He was trying to save it from itself. So what would Tocqueville say if he saw us today? He'd probably nod knowingly at our political polarization, our retreat into digital echo chambers, and our growing distrust of institutions. But he'd also remind us that he didn't just predict democracy's problems, he offered solutions. Build strong local communities, join voluntary associations, participate in local government, create counterweights to both individualism and centralized power. In other words, look up from your phone, meet your neighbors, and remember that democracy isn't a spectator sport. The man they called a fool saw our present with uncanny clarity. Maybe it's time we started listening to what else he had to say. Subscribe for more.